The real focus of this talk is on a strategic well-being mission. I said your organization needs to be on a strategic well-being mission so that you can create the environment in your organization which firstly enables employees to develop that sustainable, healthy lifestyle, but also facilitates optimum individual and organization performance. And in my view, that's what well-being is all about. So, I always like to start my talks with a kind of humorous but relevant slide. So imagine your doctor asking you this question: what fits your busy schedule better, exercising 1 hour a day or being dead 24 hours a day? So it's a funny slide, but it's also a serious question. And I'm often asked why I do what I do. Why is this so important to me? And I thought it was appropriate to tell you so that you get a kind of sense of perspective of where I'm coming from. Because the story I'm going to tell you is more to do with your individual life than your corporate life, but they're very much related to each other. So as I said, I'm often asked why. And the answer goes back to 1975. I'd been out celebrating my 20th birthday. And I came home just after midnight. And on my way to bed, I passed my parents' bedroom. The light was still on, the door was slightly open, and I could see my dad standing no more than 5 yards away. And I never said goodnight. I don't know why, but I wish I had. Because the next morning, when I woke up, my sisters told me that Dad wasn't feeling well and that Mum had taken him to the local hospital. Now, this was back in the 70s, so there were no mobile phones. So we had to wait for an eternity. But sure enough, a car rolled up outside, and I was shocked when only my mum stood up. And as she turned and then walked towards the house, I knew from her body language, and then I knew from her face, that Dad wasn't coming home. So he died very quickly in the ER from a massive heart attack. And there was nothing that they could do to save him. And I often wonder about that, because they'd probably be able to save him today. But he didn't drink, he didn't smoke, he was, I think, a pretty decent diet for the 70s, but he was 10, maybe 15 pounds overweight. He definitely suffered from a little bit of stress, but I would say no more than average. The one thing I know for sure is he didn't exercise. He stopped playing rugby when he was 32, and for the next 15 years until he died, by the odd walk and the occasional, very occasional game of golf, that was it. And I believe his relative inactivity was a primary factor in his premature death. He'd be 90 if he was alive today. That's 43 lost years. Now, a lot of people will say to me, but come on, Jim, 90 is a pretty good age. Well, his sister, his older sister, only died 3 months ago, aged 93. So go figure. So with that kind of background, this is what we're going to talk about. At number 3, I'm going to give you an illustration of my FIT-CEO company I'm going to give away a copy of my book to the person who can guess who it is. So start putting your thinking hats on. Because I'm so focused on strategic, I think you deserve to understand what I mean by strategic. And you'll notice number 5 there, which I just added, in fact. You'll hear me talk about the important role that managers play in this whole process. So, what is responsible for suboptimal performance? Why is well-being not working? When I ask that question, these are usually the answers I get. But these are not the root causes. They're not the root causes of suboptimal performance. They're actually the proximal causes. The root causes are things you do, things your organization does. Like, how does it really treat its people? How does it communicate with them? How does it train them? How does it manage their performance? That's what's responsible for suboptimal performance. Consider absenteeism. You can see it, it's above the line. It's relatively easy to measure. But this is much more difficult to measure. And it's probably fair to say that the more disengaged employees are, the greater the presenteeism. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you? The more disengaged, the greater the presenteeism. Everybody knows what presenteeism is, yes? Okay. According to Gallup, Great Britain. I couldn't find a figure for Scotland. But what that is saying is that 80% of British employees are disengaged. I don't know if that figure is right. That's what Gallup says it is. I'm from Ireland. The figure over there, by the way, is 84, so you should feel good. But that's not a good number. It's not a good number, and it suggests at a macro level that we have a disengagement problem. When you add to that our typical lifestyle, people are stressed out, they're tired, they're not sleeping very well, they're not eating healthily, and they're certainly not active enough or moving enough. You could say we have a problem. Everybody is losing, both the organization and the individual. But look, enough of the negativity, because I'm not here to be negative, I'm actually here to be positive. So I see this, and I call it strategic well-being, as a huge area of opportunity for you. And that's what FIT-CEO is all about. FIT-CEO, by the way, I developed when I was in America. It's based on many years of experience. I was speaking to the CIPD last week, and I actually said to them that I'm a member of the CIPD for 40 years and a fellow for 30, so I come with a HR background. So it's based on my experience on the one hand, but also research and what I observed in the USA on the other. So F is for first. What does that mean? It means that this has to start with the CEO. The CEO has to walk the talk, practice what he or she preaches. He is the leader, the educator, the motivator, the inspirer. But it's not just the CEO. It actually has to apply to all senior executives, indeed all managers in the organization, including HR managers. So I believe that well-being is a wonderful opportunity for you to be well-being heroes in your organization. Okay, I want to tell you a little story. About 4 months ago at this stage, I was asked by the CEO of a small but fast-growing company in the financial services sector to help them develop a performance management system. Okay? I used to do it in an older life. And after discussing it with the CEO, the first thing that I did was to sit down with all the senior executives in the organization and, if you like, a sample of the staff. And I did that in a day. But there was one sort of overwhelming message coming through to me loud and clear, and that was that performance management sucks. They hated it. But it was nothing to do with the organization that I was there to talk to them about. It was baggage from their old organization. They nearly all came from a much larger financial services company, and they hated performance management. So I said to the CEO, we sat down afterwards, and I said, look, there's only one thing we can do now. We need to involve them in the process of developing the performance management system so that it is their system. They can't blame me or somebody else for developing a performance management system. So it became their performance management system. So the second letter I is for involve. There's a lot of talk about engagement. We cannot control engagement. We can't control employee engagement. Can't. But we can control involvement. We can determine the extent of our employees' involvement in the organization. And I believe the more we involve them, the more they will engage. And if you don't involve them, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how good the plan is, it won't work. Whether it's performance management or whether it's well-being. It just won't work. And this emphasizes the importance of communication, and hence the important role that managers play in this process. T is for transform. One of my favorite books is a book called Built to Last. Has anybody heard it? Seen it? I'm sure some of you have come across it. Successful Habits of Visionary Companies. And one of the things that it talks about in the book, one of the key messages that I certainly got out of this book, that is, if you want to grow and prosper and develop, you have to create big, hairy, audacious goals. Have you heard that term? Well-being is a big, hairy, audacious goal. But it creates an opportunity to transform your organization. C is for culture. Everybody I talk to says they want their business to be the best. They want to be able to describe their business as the best. Everybody wants excellent customer service. They want high-quality products. You can't have them unless you treat your people as the most important priority in the business. You just can't. You can't have excellent customer service unless your people are totally bought into the business. Think about it. Why would they provide excellent customer service? So this is really important. And so if your people are the highest priority, then well-being has to be one of the highest values in the company. The well-being of your people has to be right up there at the top of the value chain, so that you can create an environment, you can create the culture in the organization, which is going to enable people to do their best work, provide excellent customer service, develop these high-quality products. But at the same time, if you like, in return, we create an environment where they can develop that sustainable, healthy lifestyle that I spoke about, and that there is work-life balance for them in the organization. It's a team, it's a partnership. working together. E is for excellence. So we're talking too about creating a culture of excellence. So whether it's performance management, whether it's customer service, whether it's high quality product, or well-being, we're talking about excellence. So strategic well-being is a journey towards excellence. It's a gradual, progressive, challenging, but realistic journey towards excellence. And finally, O is for outcome. You need to have a clear vision of the result that you're looking to achieve in the short, medium, and longer term. So you need to have these steps and milestones along the way. This is an image from my book. And by the way, I'm not plugging my book because I'm going to make it available to every single one of you. The ebook, if you want it, you just have to send me an email and I'll send it to you. So this is an image from my book, but you can see the decision making at the start, the steps and the goals and milestones, where you're trying to get to. So you'll notice the importance of projects. I really emphasize this. I'm all about these projects. And in the Q&A, which hopefully we'll have time for, I might develop what this acronym project is. So this is the point where I want to get you guys to think about who and what organization I'm talking about. Can't hear you? It's not Virgin. I don't know if we need... do we need a second mic for people? Maybe just try and shout. So if you put your hand up if you think you know who it might be. And I'm going to give you a few hints as we go along because nobody's going to get it first time around. So it's not Virgin. And you can guess again, by the way, if you want to. First hint, this organization just kept on winning. When I applied the FIT-CEO criteria to all of the organizations that I applied, this one just kept on winning. That's the first hint. Any ideas? Hands up. Excluding you. I already told this guy because he happened to know who it was. Sorry. It's not, but it's a really good guess. So it's not, the next hint is that it's not a traditional corporate. It's not a traditional organization. So now, that excludes the Microsofts, the Googles, the Yahoos, the BMWs, the Mercedes-Benz, the Patagonias, the Legos, all of these companies.
No.
Who?
No, I'm sorry.
I can't hear what you're saying.
Where the company is based?
It is on.
What's that?
Where the company is based?
No. No, I'm sorry. Anybody else? What's that? It's not a company. I just said it's not a company. It's not a traditional organization or corporate or company. So you need to start thinking outside the box. It's a very good example, but it's not Manchester United. Okay, so I'm going to give you the next hint. I have aspirations in that direction, but it's not me. The All Blacks. Well done. Excellent. Are you? I have aspirations in that direction, but it's not me. The All Blacks. Well done. Excellent. Are you all familiar with the All Blacks? So let's hook up afterwards. I have a copy of the book here for you. So yes, it is. It's the New Zealand All Blacks. And a lot of people wonder, why did you pick the New Zealand All Blacks? Now, I have been fascinated by this team since I was a boy. I don't know if it's the iconic black jerseys. I don't know if it's the haka. I don't know, but I know what it is now. And it's because that this team is so successful and has been for so long. And what is it that makes them so good? Now, some of you who may not be tuned into rugby might be scratching your head going, so I apologize if you're not into the sport of rugby. But if you are at all, I'm going to go through why they are my selection, but you will have an appreciation for just how wonderful an organization this is. So I said F is for first, but in the case of the All Blacks, they are a family. Everybody in their organization is very actively engaged in that organization. They feel ownership of it. And there's also something that's really important is that they're very humble. I don't know if you're familiar with the likes of Jonah Lomu. I'm sure you've all heard of him. Can you remember that guy? He was unbelievable on the field, and yet he was very meek and humble off the field. Think of the captains of the All Blacks, Richie McCaw, or Dan Carter. I don't know, again, these are names that you may or may not be familiar with, but they're incredibly humble people. They have to be if they want to be part of this team.
Who went down to train with the All Blacks over the winter, and he came back with the story about the All Blacks. He said that the most impressive thing about being humble is at the end of every rugby game with the All Blacks, the captain and the vice captain take the brush and they brush the dressing room and put all the strips away. Now, I cannot imagine anybody at Manchester United or Real Madrid or any other sports.
Or in your respective organizations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doing that.
Can you imagine a CEO or a CFO, doing this?
Yeah.
But at that level of elite sport.
Or in your respective organizations. Doing that.
Can you imagine a CEO or a CFO, doing this?
Yeah.
But at that level of elite sport, that really spoke to me about what humble
Yeah. And this is New Zealand, which is on the other side of the world. It's a country about the same size as Scotland or Ireland. Pretty small countries. But these guys are icons in their country. They're just ambassadors for their country. They're the ABBA of New Zealand. They're probably more than that. In my view, they are. So I is for involve. In the case of the All Blacks, it's ownership. They actually own what they're involved in. And when you own something, you're 100% committed to it. You're part of it. It's you. Think of how that compares to the average organization. Even the Googles or the Microsofts, if I may say so. T is for transform. In the case of the All Blacks, it's ongoing. This is the All Blacks 50 years ago at Twickenham doing the haka. I don't know if anybody here is old enough to remember it, but I remember the haka, and it was a furious thing back then. But it actually is nothing compared to the choreography, compared to the All Blacks today. I mean, the effort and energy that goes into this, they could be on Broadway with this. And that's before the game even starts. But a lot of people misunderstand the haka. They think it's a kind of a war dance to try and put off the opposition. And it has that effect, certainly on Ireland and Scotland over the years. But it's actually not about that at all. This is a form of mindfulness. This is them getting ready for the game that's in front of them. They couldn't care less about the opposition. C is for culture. Culture is evolving with the All Blacks all the time. Again, I don't want to go into it in too much detail, but they won the first World Cup, but for the next 20-odd years, they, according to some people, choked at the World Cup. Even though they were number one in the world, every time they got to the World Cup, they, quote, choked. That's not happening anymore. They've won the last 2 World Cups. They actually walk towards challenges. They want to take them on. They're all about an evolving culture of getting better and better. It's not about excellence for them. It's about being great. They want to be the best in the world. And that's all that matters. And they are. And it's absolutely clear what they're looking to achieve. Absolutely clear. In the short, medium, and long term. As we found out to our cost, about a year ago when Ireland beat the All Blacks for the first time. 2 weeks later, we were playing at home and we couldn't beat them because they learned the lesson from the previous game. So, that's the All Blacks. So I'm going to move on to strategic well-being and to describe what I mean by strategic well-being. So the first thing is, strategic well-being focuses on the organization as much as the employees. This is a really critical thing to understand. Well-being is not just about employees, it's about the organization. You can't have one without the other, they go hand in hand. And that's why I actually call it employee and organization well-being. It's not employee well-being. Having a really clear understanding of what the role from the CEO all the way down, and I know a lot of you are HR people, where does HR fit into this? And how can HR best ensure that the well-being of the organization and the employees is going to be moving in the right direction? I believe that a lot of organizations are getting that wrong. This is not going to happen overnight. This is a strategic plan that is put together probably over a 5-year time frame, something like that. And we talked about this, that from a value point of view, it's right up there. This is a big, hairy, audacious goal. And it doesn't stand alone. It needs to be integrated into everything the organization is doing. We talked about customer service excellence. You can't have customer service excellence unless you pay attention to this as well. Never going to happen. Measurement is really important, that you're tracking progress and able to show that you're making improvements, a bit like the All Blacks, gradual, progressive, challenging, realistic, all of the time, getting better. So I said right at the beginning that you need to be on a mission. Your organization needs to be on a mission. And I've left this one to last, probably because, not that it's the most important, but I want to really emphasize the role that managers play in this process of making well-being effective in your organization. You've probably gathered by now that I'm big into telling stories. So I'm going to tell another one. So I want you to imagine or visualize, probably the easiest one to do is a physical challenge or adventure. But this could apply to losing weight. It could apply to going on a healthier diet. It could apply to sleeping. It could apply to moving in the organization. It could apply to mindfulness. Lots of different things. But the easy one to think about is that you have this challenge that you've just taken on. And everything's going well until you come to this ravine. And it's too deep, and it's too wide, and it's too high. So you can't get over there in one giant leap. It's not going to happen. It's not possible. But what you can do is get there with lots of little baby steps. Step by step, day by day, week by week, month by month. That's how you cross the ravine. And when you get to the other side and you look back after a year, what you will notice is, holy crap, I made this huge quantum leap. But it actually wasn't a giant leap. It was lots of little baby steps. That's what successful people do. And if you notice the P's there, they're projects. This is broken down into back-to-back projects over a period of time. Projects which are gradual, progressive, challenging, but realistic. So this is how people succeed. This is what successful people actually do. And so that's what I do is all about. It's the essence, really, of everything that I do. So this is another image from my book. So you'll see your new lifestyle mission, your mission, starting out, the importance of projects along the journey, these back-to-back projects, where each project is a progression building on the previous one, and each project has a plan broken down into steps and goals along the way. So as I said earlier, if you're interested in getting a copy of my book, it's called The Exercise Factor. Just very quickly to say, it looks like an exercise book, it sounds like an exercise book, but it's a lot more than that. And all of this kind of stuff is discussed at length in it. It was a bestseller when it came out, by the way, in America. The tagline is, ease into the best shape of your life, regardless of your age, your weight, or your current fitness level. So if you're interested in that, all you have to do is email me or call me. So very quickly, I just want to tell you what I do. So you'll probably get a sense of I speak. So I could be speaking to organizations, I could be speaking to employees. It really depends on what it is an organization wants me to do. Coaching, I do that. Usually coaching executives to develop a sustainable, healthy lifestyle. I do a little bit, not a huge amount, of helping companies develop a strategic approach to well-being. And finally, I have only recently developed a management training program because I've talked about the importance of managers and the role of managers in this process. And I believe until you actually pay attention to your managers, well-being is not going to work in your organization. You have to address the fundamentals before something like well-being is successful. And that's the reason it's not successful in most organizations, in my humble opinion. So I suppose I ask this question, are managers the missing piece in the jigsaw? I think there could well be other pieces of the jigsaw, but they're certainly a crucial one. And somebody earlier this morning, I think it was Darlene, where she said bad managers can do a lot of damage, and by God they do. They do. But the good news is that good managers can do a part of good. So I've developed these management training programs. One is called FIT Manager, Managers on the Move, and the second one is called FIT HRM, HR Managers on the Move. Because I fundamentally believe that if you want well-being to be successful in your organization, you have to walk the talk too. Hope that makes sense. Okay. Takeaways. These are the ones that I've picked. Maybe you've got some other ones. But the first one is that I believe this is a huge area of opportunity. Huge area of opportunity for you to become well-being heroes in your organization. I've mentioned the importance of roles, having a clear understanding of what the role of all people in the organization from the CEO down is. The importance of involving people so that well-being is not done to them, it's done with them. Think All Blacks, family, part of the team, they own it, it's theirs. This is so important. This is a big, hairy, audacious goal. It's not going to happen overnight. You have to treat it as such. And we've talked about the importance of managers and their role in this process. We can't get them working on this in the right way. I'll give you a very quick example. I don't want to be Yeah, I think I've got time. I was asked to go into a company to do a talk on a well-being day in Ireland. And 20 people out of 150 people showed up for the talk. It's terrible. I mean, I felt pretty bad, but I went ahead and did it. And I asked afterwards the HR person, look, why did only 20 people show up? And she said to me that, well, she had walked around the floors and had encouraged everybody to come. But everybody was too busy. And none of the managers came. And if the managers weren't coming, the staff couldn't come, or felt that they couldn't come. And that's what happened. So this company was investing in well-being, but was getting no return. So, you know, the role of the managers is really important. And I said at the start that your company, your business, your organization needs to be on a mission, a strategic well-being mission, which creates the environment in your organization, which enables everybody to develop a sustainable, healthy lifestyle, but at the same time facilitates optimum individual and organization performance, so both individuals and the organization can achieve its full potential. Thank you.